something that I really wasn't good at early in my comedy career, or also just didn't give much focus to, and really hurt me, was not networking. And I don't like the term networking so much. I don't think it's like the greatest fit, because networking sounds like that you're going to these like dinners in a suit, and you're like handing business cards to other businesses and being like, let's connect. And that's not what it really looks like in the creative community. That's not what it really looks like for artists. Like for artists, it's really being at shows, or being out, or being around, or even just kind of messaging on Instagram like, hey, I love your stuff, anything like that. Those small little nudges of like talking to other artists, being around other artists, just really does change your career. Like the moment I kind of took a step back and realized that I wasn't doing any of these things, and I was just kind of like on the road and just really like grinding it out myself in comedy, I it was alarming at first to be like, wow, I really don't know a lot of other, like, I in passing know artists, but I don't really know a lot of artists. And this is years ago. And then I decided to be around in my scene in Arizona at the time and just be around more. And then from there, it really opened into like people being like, hey, Zach, do you want to be on my show? Do you want to be on this project? Do you want to do this together? And it's really just from being around. And that was such a game changer for me. And it seems so silly now. And so I always try to like make sure that, like, even when I'm on the road, I try to work with comedians local and really try to pull in their scene and get to know their scene, and make a effort to be like, hey, I like working with you. Next time I'm in town, let's work together. Or if you ever come out to Seattle, let's work together. And I think that's so important. And that really has changed how it works for me on touring also. Because now when I tour, I have these local comics to be like, hey, what's a good venue? Maybe, maybe last time I was there, the venue wasn't great. And I'm like, hey, what's a good venue? Or, hey, who books that thing? And just kind of having those people to reach out to really helps. And then I'm excited to come back to the scene and see my friends and see the venues and see and meet more local comics. And that is so silly and so fun, and something that is needed. You have to work together, because you're not going to be able to do this on your own. You're not going to be able to make it as an artist on your own. You're going to need friends to suggest your art, to talk about your art, to complain to yap with. Like, you need community to make it happen. And you need a community of artists that understand what you're going through, or maybe, aren't on the same level. Maybe they're, ahead of you in whatever way you want to say that, or they're just starting, but you need them around, and you need to be in that. And that's like one thing I'm really trying to focus on moving here to Seattle, is like being around in the scene and like understanding the scene, and not being like, oh, well, I only do comedy this way, and kind of opening my eyes of like, well, how do they do comedy here in Seattle, and what's different? Because it might shock you if you're not a comedian that every scene is different and how they operate is different. And they are often not aware that it's different than other places. They go, yeah, of course comedy is this way. This is how it's always been here, and so you really have to like be thoughtful and be understanding, and being like, okay, well, this is how they like to run shows. This is the type of shows they have. These are the type of comics that get booked, and understand all of that, and then see where you fit in that. And you're only going to be able to understand that by getting to know the community and by networking. And then when you do bigger projects, it's great to pull them all in, where it's like you can pull in local artists that you love and work on something big together. And then you're elevating the scene together. So I know networking is like not the right word, and maybe community building is the right word. It's somewhere in between, I think. But it's important, and I think you should focus on it.